Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I'm coming.
Yes.
Yes, science, technology, it works.
Well, it's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm Andrea. I'm at WDKX here in Rochester, New York.
All
And
right.
everyone in Rochester has always been a real big fan of you. So we're really excited to get you on. Um,
Oh, my pleasure. You lie very well.
oh, good. So I know you are home like everyone else in Jersey, correct?
Correct.
So
Uh-huh.
how's your quarantine going so far?
I'm getting a lot done around the house.
Yeah. They putting
Um,
you to work?
oh man. But you know what? It's all the stuff that I lied to myself and say I was gonna do. So I'm eventually, I'm getting around to each project, getting it all done.
What kind of stuff have you been doing?
Cooking, cleaning,
Ooh,
organizing. I'm working on a new album, though I said I wasn't gonna work on a new album.
another album. You are amazing.
No, I'm not good looking and smart like you, so I gotta keep
Okay,
working.
that's amazing. So during this time when we're all at home, I see you're using your time to be productive and creative. What kind of advice would you just give to someone that maybe doesn't can't find that inspiration in themselves? And what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, I mean, I think that everyone should have like a little side hustle, a little side thing that you do that not only makes you money, but something that you enjoy doing. The good thing that came out of this pandemic, if there is something good, is that it's made us go back to basics. So, it made us realize that there's more to life than just working. And in some cases it's reignited like relationships. In other cases it's kind of let you know that there's other things in life to do other than what you do, and to get back to so that's the good of it, if there is any good at all. But yeah, that would be the good of
That's beautiful. I think that you can always find a little bit of good in even like a dark situation, you
it.
know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I was doing some research on you, not to keep it dark, but I saw that I learned a lot about you in the last
Uh-oh.
few days when I was doing some research.
Uh-oh.
Good things, good things. I'm
Uh-oh.
inspired.
Uh-oh.
And I saw a few years ago you went through this crazy health scare
Mhm.
that kind of just took you by surprise. And I have a lot of people within my community kind of going through something similar, not in the same sense, but
Mhm.
when your health is at risk and kind of what that does to change your perspective. Um, how did that experience really change your whole outlook on life?
Well, I mean, it changed everything. I mean, everything that I spoke about kind of like in the last question came into play when I got sick. When you're lying in a hospital bed and you can't move, and
Mhm.
your options are taken away from you as to what you can do. Basically, when you're in the hospital, when you're as sick as I was, only thing you could do was just kind of lie there. So you had plenty of time to think about everything, religion, your relationship with God, work, life, all the things that you said you were going to do that you haven't done, that when you get up out of this bed, you're going to go do.
Mhm.
Everything, literally everything that you could imagine went through my mind. So, that's what I did with my time. And I always say that it was the worst thing to ever happen to me, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me
Mm.
because it made me get back to me.
Yes, oh, I love that. So was your motivation even to get back, how much of a motivation was singing to you?
Um, it was a motivation, but for me, really, just getting back on my feet was like, priority one.
Mm.
But like I said, the one thing that I realized when it happened was that music is not everything.
Mm.
So, yeah, did I want to get back up and get back to work? Of course. But at the same time, I realized that I had missed life uh, prior to getting sick. When you got time to lie there and think about it, it's like, damn,
Yeah.
I travel a lot. I never get to see anything. So,
Wow.
for the future, in the future, going forward, I said every time I do a show, I'm gonna get there like a day or two early and check out the environment that I'm going to and enjoy it,
Yeah,
and live it up a little bit. It's not all about work and money.
exactly. Just enjoying that present moment and enjoying the things around you. That's
Exactly.
that's amazing. And so even learning to love other things around you, I was reading that singing wasn't even your first love. You wanted to play basketball.
I did.
So how did you go from basketball to singing?
Well, you know what? I'm no different from any person. You know, as a young man, I used to play a lot of sports. I played basketball, I played baseball, I played a little bit of everything. But at some point, reality kicks in. You know, if you stop growing at a certain point, you
You
if you
gotta
ain't
get that. Oh,
yeah, yeah, minor detail, you know,
right.
like 5'10", 5'11".
Okay.
You know, when you're not the fastest person on the court, when you're not the guy who can jump the highest, you ain't the person with the best jump shot. You know, like
Okay, you just need that
okay,
one sweet spot. As long as you got your sweet spot, you're good.
yeah, yeah. Once they figured out what I could do, it's like
All right,
it's
time
a
to do
wrap.
something else.
You're done.
So
So yeah, that
what really brought you into singing then?
it wasn't even that. I mean, after I stopped doing that, I went to school for music.
Hmm.
But when I was leaving school, I was actually going into the military.
Wow.
Yes, I wasn't even thinking about this as a profession. I was thinking about, me and my buddy were going to do, it was called the Buddy Buddy program.
Hmm.
And together, you guys would do 20 years. So everywhere one person went, the other person, you go together.
Oh,
So,
okay, cool.
yeah. So, so I was thinking, I was like 17 at the time. And I said, man, when we get out of here, I'll be 37 and I'll be rich. You know?
That's so
But I have one minor detail. I'm sorry to cut you off, but one thing happened. I was 17, as I said, in order to join the military, you had to be 18.
right.
So I had to go get my parents' consent, and my parents wouldn't sign it.
They weren't about it.
Oh hell no! Actually, my father laughed. He
Really?
laughed. Oh please.
They wanted you to go to school instead, instead of the military?
I don't even know if they wanted me to go to school per se, but they didn't want me to go into the military.
Hmm.
That was a guarantee. That was again when I told him my buddy's name was Ralph,
Hmm.
and I said, hey, I brought the paper home. I said, hey, Mom, Dad, I need you to sign this. Me and Ralph are going to join the Marines. My father fell out laughing. He's like,
Ah!
he's like, you and Ralph, y'all going to protect the nation.
The
You
name.
two.
Oh, he had jokes. He had
Yeah,
jokes.
oh yeah. He's like, you can't even make your bed at home. How you gonna make your bed, in the service? I was
Come
like,
on, Dad.
hey, he was not having it, so he didn't sign.
But look how it all worked out, though.
Thank
Everything
God.
happens for a reason.
Thank God.
So, what
Yeah.
made you, as an adult, then choose music or singing professionally as a career? What was that deciding factor for you?
It wasn't even a decision. It was more uh, my life and career has been like a series of happenstances.
Hmm.
And I don't call it luck. I'm just following the steps, and the opportunities that have been presented to me by God, I believe. So my whole life has been a series of those. When I didn't go into the military, I lucked up and ran into this teacher that I went to high school with, and he got me into college. It had nothing to do with academics because my grades were freaking terrible. I was a terrible student. He got me in based on my ability. Then I went to school and in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia, and developed my skills even more. Then came back to New York, got a day job, but at night I was starting to sing.
Yeah.
And so people would hear me sing, and then they'd be like, okay, yeah, I like that dude. Hey, man, let me get your number. And then they would call me for a session. And then someone else would call me. And it kind of just went on and on and on and on until my name became, kind of popular around town.
Right.
And then that kind of turned into me doing like background vocals on records. And I did a ton of those in the 80s. And then that turned into me getting a solo career in 88.
Wow.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
weren't even born.
No, not
you,
yet. I wasn't gonna
you,
say anything, but
like I said, you weren't even thought of.
no, not yet. But it really does just come down to faith, because as a creative as well, I'm an actor. So I feel
Okay.
like sometimes, we struggle with this idea of you need to maintain a day job to have your creative side.
Right.
So
Right.
I feel like, and I was even talking to Asia about this, your daughter,
Uh-huh.
about
Uh-huh.
like kind of like balancing, like as an adult, like how do you know this is the right move for you? And sometimes it sounds like what you're saying is you got to just go within and just trust what kind of God puts in front of you to go through
Absolutely.
that path.
Absolutely. I mean, but at some point, reality kicks in.
For
I mean,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. I mean,
The
You
reality
know,
is like that small factor. It's like you don't want to be so like in the clouds.
right, right. Like work. I'm not gonna work. I'm supposed to do this. This is
Right.
my God given. Like, nah. Listen, if it were that easy, everybody
Everyone
would do
would
it.
do it. Yep.
So that's the reality of it. I mean, at some point, you have to kind of like look at yourself in the mirror and come to grips with me being playing ball.
Mhm.
at,
Yeah.
at some point, it was kind of like, mm.
Yeah.
So
Having that honest conversation.
that honest conversation, and not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm.
You have to have something else that you can fall back on.
Yeah.
So, if that's a parental kind of an answer, but it's about as real of an answer as you can get. That's just sound information.
Yeah. It's true though.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you've been in, well, I feel like your sound kind of just blends like soul and R&B and
Mhm.
gospel. But in terms of like R&B today, which I feel, because I've grown up listening to you as like that was like the sound of R&B.
Yeah.
What do you think of, or what is your take on R&B today? Because obviously it's evolved over the last 30 years, but I would love to hear what your idea of it is now.
Well, I mean, I'm on the fence. I think there's a lot of really good artists out there that represent R&B the way I remember it,
Yeah.
and they've taken it beyond. Obviously, they've done like a hybrid of classic R&B and what they do.
Mhm.
Um, like Chris Brown to me is sort of that. I
Yeah.
mean, vocally, he has the ability to do all these amazing things. Some of the stuff I ain't really crazy about that he's saying, you
Right.
know, but if he takes all the, I'm the king of sex thing, I'm gonna sex you up, I'm gonna do they like
Right.
you
It's
just
like you
kind of
need to,
like, yeah, you gotta shift that a little bit, pull it back, make it a little slicker, say it a different way.
yeah.
That dude is a traditional R&B artist.
Mhm.
So from that standpoint, yes, I still think that there's artists out there that carry the flag for it. Unfortunately, what they call R&B now is not, in my eyes, true R&B.
Yeah.
It's something else, and I'm not saying that it's not musical and that it's not valid,
Right.
but it's not R&B. So, and it's a fight that I ain't gonna win, and I ain't trying to fight it, to be honest with you.
Well, do
But
you
when I
think,
see it, I just kind of like scratch my head and kind of go, that ain't R&B.
but
It's
do
like,
you even think that there is a place for, because you always have like romance behind a lot of the songs that you sing. Do you
mhm.
even think there's a place for that in music today? Do you think music needs romance, or do you think people are kind of are gravitating more towards the sexualization of music?
Well, I think that the people that are listening need to decide.
Mm.
You know, uh, you know, men, brothers need to kind of step up and say, hey, this is going to be, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to try to get at, who I'm trying to get with. And
Yeah.
sisters have to kind of say, that's what I want, or that's what I don't want.
Don't want, right?
You know, back in the day, in order to, for a man to kind of act right back in the day, a woman would kind of say, I don't want no dude, whose clothes ain't iron, ain't,
Mm.
he ain't
Yeah.
got no job.
Basic standards, you know?
Kind of, sort of. But today, you don't hear a lot of that. A lot of these young ladies out here, kind of like, yeah, I kind of like that. You know, I don't mind him calling me this. I don't mind, this. And even the way sometimes I hear young people, damn, I sound old. The way, damn, I was
It's all
old.
right, Dad. Go ahead now.
I told myself I was never gonna sound like my parents, and I swear to God, I
It
sound like my
happens.
parents.
It happens. Trust me. I'm already starting to sound like them, and I'm not even at that age yet. So,
Well, I hate when I hear people like, okay, like all these reality shows that's on
mm,
TV, and women now greet themselves as kind of like they walk, hey, what up, bees?
yeah,
What up? It's kind of like, why?
yeah.
Or, folks now, we using, Ninja, and I'm gonna put it
I know.
that way.
I know what you
And
mean.
it's like, what up, Ninja? It's like, come on, man, really?
But do you
And
find
people
that
are accepting
people?
of it.
But do you find if people take? Do you think maybe they've taken the idea of taking the power back from those words and maybe taken it too far? So it's kind of like it's lost its meaning altogether, or it's almost having like a negative effect now.
Well, I think that it's become like accepting.
Mm.
And at some point, you have to grow up and
Yeah.
you have to graduate. You
Yeah.
know, for as much as, yeah, it may be socially acceptable in your circle, you
Right.
know, once you leave that small circle and you get out into real life, don't nobody want to hear all that.
Exactly.
Ain't
I think that
they?
might be like almost a reflection of kind of how people today operate, especially like the millennial generation or Gen Zs, is because we're so used to operating within these small circles of who we
Right,
interact with on social media. So we think
right,
that's how the whole world is.
right,
And then
right.
so you even forget like it didn't even used to be like that 10 years ago.
Right. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean, and I mean, and in some cases, especially with us, you know, other cultures and the world is evolving, and we're kind of
Mhm.
like stuck in our little thing. And then when we
Well,
get into
well,
the real world, it's like I can't find a real job. I can't this. I can't believe I didn't get. I can't. It's like because you weren't ready
yeah.
because you know you don't know how to hold a conversation
Yeah.
aside from texting one. Like you've
Yeah.
never sat down and talked with someone. You
Yeah.
know, you can't even offer anything to the conversation because you don't know how to converse.
How to converse anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that even goes to show, I think, and maybe that is kind of why it's where it says like art imitates life or life imitates art. And then that really might be the, I don't want to say the issue we have in music, but I think that's, well, is a definitely a reason why music is the way it is today, because
Yeah.
that's how people are now.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm,
in some cases, in certain genres, yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
Sure.
certainly in R&B, like you know, I'm always checking different charts and always listening for certain things. And the one thing that really bothers me now about our music, I'm just gonna say
Yeah. Trust me. This is Black on
that.
stage. You can say what you got to say.
Okay, cool. Our
Yes,
music now. I feel
sir.
like JJ from Good Times. Our music.
Right.
The one thing I know about our music is when I look down and I see that E next to every song, the explicit thing,
hmm
I'm like, why every song gotta have that in there? Like, why you gotta curse? I can't.
Right.
You couldn't find a way to say whatever you want to say without saying
Mhm.
that. You
Yeah.
couldn't really. Every song got an E, 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 and you know, you guys have a radio station. You
Yeah.
can't play it.
No. No.
I have a radio show. I can't play it. I
Yeah.
gotta look for the clean version. It's like, why can't you just find a slick way to say what you gotta say without saying
Not
that?
saying it so harshly.
Right. Yeah. You could say it if you were in another circle. I mean, you could not say it. Sorry. You could not say it when you're in another circle. For some reason, you can curve your mouth and you can figure
Mhm.
out other ways to say it.
Yeah.
But it's like, why you gotta advertise to the world that your vocabulary may not be as
Up
large
front.
as you know we
Yeah.
believe it is to be.
It's almost like we need to bring that element of poetry back into the music.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I understand people would say, well, I'm just saying what's on my mind, but there's a way to say things without necessarily saying, because there's plenty of songs I grew up on that I didn't even know that's what they were talking about until I got older. I was like, oh, that's what this
That's
is
what that
about.
meant. Oh.
Right. So, and I know you,
Yes, yes, we were nasty, but we
right? No, y'all were nasty and
yeah.
y'all be talking about us, but at least you were a little bit like, secretive about it. Or it was a little more poetic about it. But I be
Hey,
listening to
listen.
some of these songs, like, because I'm a big Prince fan, and some of the stuff I was like, wait, hold on a second. Is this what my parents were singing around the house?
Absolutely. And even prior to that, I mean, think of someone like Marvin Gaye.
Oh my God, yeah.
Marvin Gaye had, "Hey baby, please turn yourself around,
Yeah.
oh, so I can love you right."
And
Oh
there was
baby,
definitely a
baby.
different way he could have said that.
Hey, but it went right over people. The average person kind of like, but the person who was in the know, kind of like, who was really listening, kind of like,
Hey, Pete.
mm-hmm. But if you heard that song today, someone would be probably a little bit more graphic than that.
Yeah. So,
So,
because I know, and you write your some of your own songs as well. So,
mhm.
what is your writing process? How do you keep the poetic nature of songwriting still alive?
Well, I mean, I liken it back to the traditional way of R&B. You
hmm
know, I mean, I try to be that slick, you know, writing, and I get joy in trying to find a slick way of saying
Yeah.
things like without being so like to the point and direct. It's
Right.
like let's be a little bit more poetic with it,
Yeah.
you know. I remember I'd written a song and my mother called me and she was like, she heard it. She's like, you know, that song could be taken a lot of ways. I was like, oh, really, Mom? You know, no,
Okay.
knowing that that's the way I'd written the song.
Yeah, that's beautiful though. I think that's definitely a part of what R&B needs, and
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
great to have people that still believe in that part of the art, you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So even to look at your catalog of songs, which you have 22 albums, first of all,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
mind blowing to me. You know, it's just to constantly be creating. That's a beautiful thing. So first off, I need to ask, how? How are you able to do that? That is a
So,
lot. And they're albums. That means
yeah.
they have like 10 plus songs on them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How?
Well, I mean, if God keeps giving me something to say and giving and I have a creating spirit,
Hmm.
then why stop?
Yes.
I mean, you know, if there's something to say, and I'm always trying to better myself. So I'm always trying to like, okay, yeah, I did my thing on this one. Yeah, let me see if I can write something a little better. So I'm always trying to one up myself.
Wow. That's beautiful. So y'all hear that. If God is speaking to you, give the
Yeah,
gift out to the world. Don't hold it in.
yeah. For what? I mean,
Yeah.
listen, especially these days, people ain't waiting on you. That the you know the old adage that we used to have when I first started recording was don't do too much. You don't want people. You don't want to oversaturate the market.
Right.
People will start saying that you're doing too much, or they'll start seeing you too much.
Right.
Now the world is the complete opposite. Now if you want somewhere all the time with your name or your on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or if you ain't saying something somewhere, TikTok doing some stupid ass dance, just like good TikTokers.
Literally, this is all they're
Right.
doing.
I just saw Will on Facebook, and I was on there, and here it is on Instagram, and here's on TikTok.
Yep. All
So
over the place.
you got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So if there's ever a time to create, this
Now
is
is the time.
yeah.
That's very beautiful, very powerful. And then in terms of the songs, the covers that you do,
Mhm.
um, it's so crazy because like whenever I've listened to Will Downing songs, I always thought they were your songs that other people covered. Because
Yay!
you take a song and you completely make it your own, which honestly I think it can be very dangerous to a person that doesn't know how to put their own spin on a cover, because so how do you choose which songs to cover that you feel that you can really put your own into it?
Well, in the early days, it used to be I would record songs or remake songs that were done by female artists.
Hmm.
So that you got like the male equivalent to a song like I Tried, which was Angela Bofield.
Yeah.
Yeah, but men try as well. So let me give you the male perspective of that song. Let
Mhm.
me give you our point of view. So a song like that was very easy to do because I wanted to represent for the brothers.
Yeah.
Later on, it became like challenges. Like I'd hear a song, and then a friend of mine would say, like, "Yo, man, that's the coldest song ever. Ain't nobody ever gonna like." Oh, really? Oh, really?
Oh, for real?
oh,
Okay, but
really? Okay, all right. So, and I go into the studio and then I try to one up it. So,
yeah,
it's different means of motivation for me to do the remakes that I've done.
that's awesome. I saw like that you've had some success across the pond as well. So,
Mhm.
how would you compare the reception of your music, or maybe the genre at a whole, between America, maybe UK?
Well, it was very interesting because when I first started out, I wasn't really thinking about overseas. I
Mm.
wasn't thinking about England and or Europe when I first started. I mean, I just wanted like everyone in the neighborhood to kind of hear me doing my thing on a local station,
Right.
and it didn't happen. Like the radio station in New York wasn't playing none of my stuff,
Dang it.
and I got lucky overseas. I mean, someone found the album, and I like hit. I mean, like big, really big. Like my first album went like platinum over there, and I
Wow.
found myself going over there like at least at least once a month or every other month, I found myself in Europe and in England for like an extended period of time. So it was fantastic, you know. And then eventually, after a series of albums, my popularity got a little bigger in America, and I was able to kind of like work more at home, and then go back over there occasionally.
You needed to. Never
Thank
thought
God.
about like you never thought about like settling in Europe or anything like that when you're like,
I
well, these
did.
people are responding to me, like I might as well just stay here.
You know what? I did. I did. I thought about it in the late '80s. I'd asked my wife at the time
Mhm.
if she wanted to move over there. She wasn't having it.
Ah,
So
dang.
yeah, she wasn't into it at all. So, and she had come over and visited, and you know,
You
just
really
just
want to go?
nah.
Well, hey, I guess the shopping wasn't as good back then than it is now. Because I will definitely go across seas.
Really, I mean, just over a
Yeah,
pair, you know.
yeah, over
So,
shopping and food for sure. Yeah. But that's me.
but hey, listen, with the advent of the internet, you could shop
Anywhere, that's true.
anywhere. You could do that from the comfort of your couch
Yeah,
right there.
that's not as fun, but you're right. You're right.
Okay, all right, you're gonna plead your case, and I ain't gonna fight with you because when I used to go, the first time I went with a bag full of clothes, and I
See,
was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be fly, and I was looking around, I was like, damn, that's fly. Give me that.
so
Take the next
different.
fly. I need. The
Right.
second time I went with an empty suitcase, and I said,
That's the
I'm
way to
buying
do it.
everything I see.
That's the way to do it. It's so crazy when you start to travel and you see like how different it is from America.
Mhm.
You think, well, at least from me being naive, I was like, oh, like America's the one that kind of sets the trends. Then I got over there and I was like, oh, like they're hip to a lot of stuff that we don't know
Oh yeah.
about.
Oh yeah, listen, I kept a whole bunch of stores in London, you know, open. I done paid college tuitions. You know, I'd hit through. They had a what was it called, the King's Road, and I
Hmm.
go down there, and it was just like, you know, back then it was like shop after shop after.
Right.
And then you know we didn't have the internet back then, so you know you really didn't have the pleasure and the luxury of being able to see anything, you know, in
Before.
America. So it's like when you went over there, you go over there, you used to see these fly ass shoes. Like I ain't never
Yeah.
seen them. Oh no, I'm bringing these back home. I'm gonna kill
Yes.
them back home. And
Yes.
you get back, folks are like, yo, where you get them from? I was like,
Like London.
yeah, I can't tell you my spot, you know, but
Right. Oh,
yeah,
love
next
it.
time I go, maybe I'll, you know,
Maybe I could like put you on, but
yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
we'll figure it out. That's awesome. So from performing it all over the world and then you came back home, so you've performed obviously thousands of shows at this
yeah.
point. Is
Hmm.
there anything that you really miss about performing since we're kind of not
Well,
going
these
back to that
days,
for a
you,
while?
you could stop. You could have stopped that. You know, do you miss performing? You could have just stopped
Stop
right
there,
there.
right?
Uh, yeah, I mean, when something is taken away from you, you learn to appreciate it more.
Hmm,
And you know, I was working a lot pre-pandemic. Don't call
right.
it pandemic. I call it a pandemic. Pre-pandemic, I was working a lot and had a whole lot of shows on the books. And you know, now obviously I get a phone call or email every week saying, "Hey, can we move? You know, Detroit to 2021? Can we move
Well, at
Chicago?"
least you have stuff to plan for in the future, you know?
Yeah,
Stuff to look
I'm gonna be
forward to.
fine. Yeah, I'll be fine in 2021, but for right now, it ain't looking good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I miss just being out on the road and doing what I do.
Yeah. What do you miss most about performing?
Well, performing, period. You know, being in front of the crowds, having an outlet where you get the immediate like and or dislike.
Mm,
You know, with records, you put them out there, and you know, you basically have to wait for a response via a radio station or a
right.
personality. Obviously, you can go online, and you know, you get a whole bunch of thumbs up, or you get a whole bunch of folks out there that ain't got real nice things to say about you. But the thing is, with live, you know, it's the one thing that doesn't lie. You know, you can look out into the audience and see the response based on what you do and or don't do right,
Mm,
uh, and you can base what you're going to do based on that. So, and the adulation and or you know whatever else comes with it is
yeah.
immediate. It's like right there. It's real time, and I
Yeah.
miss it a lot.
Yeah. You can feel that energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
I
awesome.
said all that to say what you just said, yeah.
No, no, it's
I just should
exactly.
have said, yeah, the energy.
No, no, I love the description because you can really picture, you can really feel it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do want to
All right.
talk about Romantique. This is
Mhm.
the album, but it was really a two-part EP series,
Correct.
right? So what
Correct.
made you break it down into two EPs?
Um, I'm trying to follow the roadmap of today's listening style.
Mm,
I put out a record prior to that, and I always run into people that kind of like, hey man, what you working on? I said, oh yeah, what are you doing? I said, oh yeah, I have this record out. And they go, oh yeah, yeah, I got that one. What else you doing? It's like,
I'm
we
doing
just
this.
released that joint like
Right.
3 months ago.
It just happened.
It literally just happened, like 90 days ago. Oh yeah, yeah, I heard that. It's like, so
Okay.
people's listening style that is different now. So
Hmm.
it's like you constantly have to have something, whether it be a single or, so I figured instead of concentrating for a year and a half, working on 10 pieces, let me just kind of like put these little nuggets together and people can concentrate for like 6 months. And like by the time they get sick of that one, here comes
Have
part two.
something else
By the
coming
time they
through.
get sick of that one, here comes another one. So, and on and on and on and on.
It's smart. Yeah.
I don't know how smart it is, but it's what I'm doing.
It makes sense because you're right. People's listening habits have definitely changed.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, folks back in the day, you would put on an album and you'd listen to it for,
Top to bottom.
ad infinitum. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go home and listen to this record. Now there's so much music out there and so many options that people have to hear music that you have to be like out there all the time, or they'll think that that you're dead. They'll think you're on the
Right.
other side of the dirt
That's
if
so
you ain't doing
crazy.
something.
And you've only
It
been like,
is
if you've like disappeared for 3 months just enjoying your life, I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you were still around. Like, what are you talking
basically, yeah, yeah,
about?
yeah. I thought you were dead.
Can you imagine? Like, what? No, I'm right here.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm
though.
not. I'm not dead. Yeah, yeah. I saw it on the internet.
Damn, that's crazy. So, and then even with like all these different albums that you had, I always feel like there's like a theme with each one. Like you've had like Christmas albums, you've had gospel
Right,
albums, you've had like your rendition of female songs. So
right.
for Romantique, parts 1 and 2, how did you pick these songs, and really who is this for? What is the theme for this
Well, the theme for romantiques, oof.
one?
Romantique 1 and 2 is it's a tribute to baritone vocalists.
Mm,
So people like Barry White, people like Isaac Hayes, Larry Graham, Lou Rawls. You don't hear a lot of male vocalists with low voices anymore. And that's what a baritone is. For those who don't know what a baritone vocalist is, it's a gentleman with a low voice. So you don't hear that much anymore. It's like myself, maybe Gregory Porter, one or two other folks kind of fit in that category. So I decided to resurrect what used to be the norm. You used to hear men sound like, like
yeah,
men.
yeah.
You used to hear men sound like men. And so I was trying to bring that back with that project. That was the concept.
It's beautiful. And then in terms of the songs, what made you gravitate towards those? Was it more so because they were already baritone singers, or did they fall in line with um, uh, another message that kind of like flows into like Ready, Willing, Able? What really made you pick those songs?
Um, some of them are classics.
Mhm.
Like You'll Never Find is a classic, by Lou Rawls. Just hasn't been heard in a very long time. So I just sort of, try to bring it into slight modern day, try to give it like a little stepper sort of a thing. So, I just did reenactments of classic songs. And with songs like Ready, Willing, and Able, that's an original piece. I just decided to put some real estate on my own project and, do what I believe will be a staple for someone 20 or 25 years from now and say, yeah, I need to do that classic by Will Downing, Ready, Willing, and Able, and maybe they'll remake it and keep this thing going.
Yes, I love it. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your day, but I do want to let all of our listeners know that you can find Romantique parts 1 and 2 online, and you can always hear Ready, Willing, and Able on WDKX.
I'm
So
sorry, I didn't hear you. What you say?
Ready and Willing and Able will
All right, I'm sorry. Okay, good. I'm
it's
sorry.
available. You will hear it on WDKX. So make sure you keep listening for Will Downing. That's Ready,
Yeah.
Willing, and Able by
Ready,
Will
willing, and
Downing.
able. That's right.
And keep listening to Rochester's #1 station. It's WDKX.